Welcome to Sisters in Crime's Murder Monday, where authors talk all about their crime craft. My name is Jacq. I'm a bibliophile, copywriter, occasional broadcaster, podcaster, and member of Sisters in Crime Australia, where we've been celebrating women's crime writing since 1991. My guest for this month's Murder Monday is Sherryl Clark. He's published more than 70 children's and YA book, award-winning verse novels, for fantastic crime novels for adults. And Sherryl has recently moved from Australia to Aotearoa, so we are speaking from across the ditch. Hello, Sherryl.
Hi, Jacq.
Oh, good. I got it right this time. Fantastic. Having been writing crime fiction for years, Sherryl's first crime stories were published in the Artemis Press anthologies, The Age Summer Reading, and in high school texts. In 2018, she entered her novel, Trust Me, I'm Dead. I'm just going to go here. In the CWA debut Dagger, and was shortlisted. And this led to Verve publishing three of her Judy Westerholm series series. And Sherryl has also been longlisted with the CWA John Creasy New Blood Award and the New Zealand Ngaio Marsh Debut Novel Award. And she also tells a really good story. Sherryl, do you think you could give us the elevator pitch for your brand new novel, Woman Missing, which is out
Okay, well, my main character is new in this novel, Lou Orcott. She's a brand new private investigator, but she was a police constable for 3 years until she totally lost it one day and attacked a domestic violence perpetrator and was forced to resign. She drifted a bit, and then her grandfather, who happens to be a Melbourne crime boss, got her this private investigator job with a mate of his. So her first cases, one is a woman who appears to have left her husband and disappeared, and her parents are looking for her. And then she does a house security check for another young woman who is convinced that her ex is stalking her again. And then she disappears. And so now Lou has two cases which seem to be totally unconnected, but somehow similar. So she's got to work out what is going on.
and we're going to leave it there, but it is eminently readable because I know I did it in a single sitting. It was great.
That's good.
I know, it's just burning the midnight oil. It's like, who needs to be on form for work? The next
right.
time we've got a really good book. So we should start our questions. Oh, What started you on a life of crime?
Well, funnily enough, it goes back to my years at high school. I was very lucky. I had an English teacher of mine who lived just up the road from me.
Yeah.
And every now and again she would say, "Oh, I'm throwing some books out from my library. Why don't you pop up and just help yourself?" And I would get to her house and there would just be these piles of books on a table, and she would just say, "Take whatever you want." And so I ended up with this, my very first library, which was probably about 60% crime fiction and 40% historical fiction. So I actually started off in my teens reading the likes of Mickey Spillane, and Raymond Chandler and a few others, and Agatha Christie's, and also historical fiction like the I can't remember the name of the TV series that had the really hunky guy in it, but lots of historical fiction, and just a great mix. So I felt like that really got me started.
Yeah.
And then I joined a crime book club in my 20s, and that was where I got into private investigator novels like the Kinsey Milhone and V.I. Wachowski series with Sarah Paretsky. So a big mix right from the start.
Oh, fantastic. Next question. Do women write different crime stories to men?
I'm not sure really that they do. That might have been the case 20 or 30 years ago. But for example, I see a lot of women crime writers now writing male characters.
Hmm.
And I've written one myself. I've got 2 novels with a male character that haven't been published yet. And then you see male writers writing really good female characters. So I think if there's a difference, I suspect that women crime writers write angrier female characters, like
Oh.
females that are more likely to be violent and be after retribution, perhaps. That's just my feeling. Not sure, but that's what I think.
That's fantastic. Ooh,
Mm.
how important is place in your writing?
Really important. I think with the Judy Westerholm novels, what I was really interested in was situating them very firmly in the western suburbs of Melbourne, where I lived for probably nearly 40 years.
Yeah.
And so I used a lot of places. And I think because I'd read a couple of crime novels set in places like Williamstown where they had details wrong. And I
Hmm.
thought, no, that's not right. You've got to actually be there. And funnily enough, because trust me, I'm dead, took quite a long time through many drafts before it was published.
Yeah.
I actually had to go back and revisit some of those locations because they had changed so much.
Yeah.
And that was really good too. But I really wanted that feeling of being right in the western suburbs of Melbourne and country Victoria. And I still use both of those in whatever I write because they've just they're so evocative, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you start with the plot, the character, or something else?
It varies.
Hmm.
Um, the Lou Alcott novel, Women Missing, started with a character. I just had this urge to write a female character who was a private investigator. And it actually started as a short story that I wrote for the Scarlet Stiletto Award. And then I kept thinking about it and thinking, I think there might be a novel here. And then I started writing the novel
Yeah.
and totally stuffed it up because the short story didn't fit in the novel. And I kept trying to make it fit and it wouldn't
Yeah.
fit. And I threw out 2 early drafts of about 30,000 words each. I just had to chuck them and start again. And finally,
Were you okay chucking 30,000 words? You weren't going to like bin them or draw them or bring them back or anything like that?
no, sometimes I do try to do that, but I just knew something wasn't working,
Yeah.
something really intrinsic to the story I was trying to tell. So it was just like, you heave a great big sigh and then you just go, all right, I'll start again. Um, but but with the Judy Westerholm novels, the very first one actually started with a plot idea, and it was an article that I read in a magazine, and it just stuck in my head. And I went back and I ripped out the bit of the article that really intrigued me and stuck it in a notebook. And then years later, I lost it. But by then, the novel had gone through quite a few drafts.
Yeah.
And then when I moved house to come back to New Zealand, I actually found the notebook. And it was really interesting because all of the early draft stuff that I wrote, nothing of that appeared in the final novel. It all disappeared, but I still had that little thing that I had torn out of the magazine.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Are you a plotter or a pantser?
I'm kind of in the middle.
Just like a
Um,
scaffolder, a hummingbird.
I
There's a
like
lot of
diagrams. No, I like
diagrams.
diagrams. So I draw big diagrams, and I like I when I was teaching creative writing, I used to do a lot of stuff on structure because I'd really felt that it was something that a lot of writers, especially new writers, were missing and they didn't understand what it was.
Yeah.
So I often now will go back with the 3-act structure and I'll just have a look at, okay, what's happening there, and it really helps to get the pacing right when you use that kind of structure. You can see where the major events are happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of come at it from that direction rather than writing outlines or just kind of going for it and not knowing what I'm doing, which I can't do anymore. I used to, and I stuffed up a few things, so
Well, that kind of
now I don't.
segues to the next question. Who do you turn to for help when you're stuck with your writing? Or
I've got a fabulous writing group. We call ourselves Big Fish, and we've been going, I think, since 2010.
yeah,
So for a long time, it ended up being three of us, and it was great because we could just focus on novels, and we would do a chapter every month. We've got a new member now. Well, she's not that new anymore. We've had her for 2 or 3 years, but it's just great to have that group of writers that you can bounce things off and give them a couple of chapters at a time. And they're really tough. We're all tough on each other.
yeah.
And it just makes a really big difference. It's just like that extra sounding board that you need, especially when
Oh,
you think usually when you've done something that you think is really good, and
yeah.
then they go, no.
It's like
Try again.
I know that feeling. Do you ever surprise yourself with how dark your characters can be?
Sometimes. I know with Judy in the third novel,
Yeah.
she did something towards the end that just kind of came out of nowhere and surprised me. But I felt like at that point she had really reached the end of her tether, and
Yeah.
she was really stressed out, a bit traumatized by things that had been happening. And when it came to confronting um, someone that she had had a beef with her for a long time and that she was really suspicious of, and then she just lost it. And I won't tell you any more than that.
It's just
But
like,
that
yeah, well, you don't need to tell me because I know. However, we can't give it
yeah,
away.
yeah, but that did, when I was writing it, that did kind of come out of nowhere. And then after I'd written, I just thought, yeah, yeah,
No, no, you're
that's what she did.
absolutely right. Because it just, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was about to say, I can't give too much away, but with Lou, um, there was one incident where I'm standing on the sidelines cheering. Um,
Yeah, yeah. And yet Lou gradually somehow is having to learn a little bit more self-control. And then
mm,
every now and again I think, does she really have to? But yeah, the feedback from one particular thing that I wrote was like, just didn't sound like something that at that point in the story she would actually do. So I had to rewrite that bit. So
oh,
that's where the feedback's really helpful.
there you go. Do you enjoy writing for adults or kids more?
They're very different.
Mm,
Um, I have found over the years, especially probably about the last 7 or 8 years, I hate to say I've ended up writing more issue-based stories
hmm.
because I guess I don't see them that way, because that's to say you write issue-based stories, um, first of all, sounds a bit cliched, but also people just go, oh, well, oh, how,
Yeah.
don't be so political. So I think in fiction you can disguise that. I find now I write a lot more from my heart about things that really upset me or that have for a long time made me angry.
Yeah.
And I kind of channel that through my characters and try some kind of restitution, or not a solution, but just make something happen in the
Hmm.
story that has significance and might lead people just to think about things a bit differently. At least I hope that's what happens. Yeah.
Who's your favorite crime character? I should probably say, do you have one?
Well, I would have said Vera, except I think I think that's actually got a lot to do with Brenda Blethyn
Ah,
playing Vera in the TV series.
yep.
I do really enjoy the novels,
Mhm.
but I just love Brenda Blethyn playing that part. Um, I do also really like Harry Bosch, and I really was interested when Michael Connolly finally was okay with um, a TV series on
Yep.
Bosch, and it was really interesting to read that he had a lot of say in how the TV series was filmed, and
Mhm.
also that he himself said that um, Titus Welliver, who plays Bosch in the TV series, was his. That's how he saw Bosch when he imagined him in the novels, and I agreed. I just thought, yeah, he's really, really good as Bosch, and
Yep.
so he's also a favourite character. Yeah, and I love the way Bosch says, um, "Everybody matters or nobody matters."
Yeah. You can't argue with that, can you?
No, no, that's right.
I wouldn't argue with Bosch anyway. What is your writing routine?
I don't have one daily.
Yep.
I have a commitment that every Wednesday I go and write at the library,
Mm-hmm.
up in the silent section, and I have done that ever since I've been living here. I've got a great public library, and you go upstairs and you look out over the park and the creek at the back, and
Oh,
and
wow.
it's quiet, and other people are up there writing as well, which is good. So that's my firm commitment, and then my other commitment, which I dropped for a while, but I've come back to, is every time I sit down to write, I have to write 200 words. So no more than that, but I have to write 200 words before I stop. And usually just about always I keep going,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the getting started that's the challenge. So the 200 gets me started.
Oh, that's a great idea. Alrighty. What's your top writing tip?
Um, Learn to read as a writer. So I've done things like photocopied pages of novels and then gone through them with a highlighter, especially
Yep.
when it's a writer who I'm kind of a bit envious of, and I really love what they've done,
Yep.
or they've really nailed characterization, or they've done some great stuff with setting, like James Lee Burke. His settings are just amazing.
Mm.
And so I'll maybe photocopy 20 pages and then I'll go through with highlighters and pens, and I'll just be really looking for stuff that I can learn from, and then I put it away and then I forget about it. But I think it does sink in, it all
Yep.
sinks in one way or another. So yeah.
Almost to the last question, but do you have a favorite food when you write?
No, I don't eat when I write.
Well,
I
that's an
forget
easy.
about eating. I forget
That's an
about
easy
eating when
one.
I'm writing. I forget about everything, including the fact that I've been sitting in the chair for 2 hours and then I get up and I can't move.
Oh
Uh,
no.
but no, I don't. I don't even have coffee while I'm writing. I don't know why not. I just don't. I just sit down and away I go. So no food, no
No
drinks,
food, no drinks, no refreshments, just work.
no, just work. Yeah, just words until I remember where I am again.
And the final question, how would you get away with murder?
Well, look, before DNA and forensics and that took over and made things so difficult,
Yeah.
I always thought that a really big wood chipper would be a great solution. Um, and I'm sure I've read somewhere that someone actually did that, but it would have been a long time ago. I mean, you couldn't get away with it now, but yeah, certainly one way of getting rid of a body.
Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us. I loved reading Woman Missing, and Cheryl is speaking at Melbourne Sisters in Crime's High Stakes, Low Morals on
Yep.
July 26th. So catch that if you can. Murder Monday interviews are available on Sisters in Crime's YouTube channel at 6 p.m. once a month on a Monday. Sherryl, thank you so much for your time and sharing all your wonderful tips.
Thanks for having me. It was great.